Well, that does link us nicely. We've spoke about it from your point of view as the emergency response driver, and now we're driving instructors. And this podcast is about teaching learners and many different ways to teach learners. But this is something that, as you mentioned before we started recording, how do you bring this into the syllabus? How do we prepare our learners for that first time that they've got an emergency vehicle with sirens behind them and they're coming up to a junction, for example? How do we prepare our learners for that?
So I think initially, just the same as everything that we do in our lessons, Josh, I think simple to complex to start
I
with.
mean, I don't know whether it's
So
linked to this, but something really interesting that you said of allow the sound to arrive to warn people. And that really stands out because as a driver, it is we hear them before we see them. And when you hear the sirens, you're like, I'm checking all of my mirrors. I'm looking at where are they? Where are they going? How am I going to deal with it? And then we're going to get there, but bringing that up in our learners and how we help
to
them.
negotiate. Um, so I think, yeah, the managing of risk, people don't necessarily think about as drivers. They just, oh crap, there's an emergency vehicle and they bounce it up a curb or whatever. I've seen pedestrians nearly get taken out because people have just been looking in the mirrors trying to get up the footpath away from an emergency. And we've got ample room. We don't need them people to be going up the footpath. But people just, especially with an ambulance, they'll do whatever they can to get out of the way of the ambulance, often to the detriment of their vehicle or other people. Like I say, they just all hell breaks loose. Um, and I think the teaching of it is the skill of dealing with the emergency vehicle is so important. You know, first of all, the staying calm is the most important thing because the practical aspect of controlling the car, most of our learners can do that when they're at the stage of obviously sitting a driving test because we wouldn't be presenting them if they can't do that. So I think it's learning to manage the mind more than the vehicle. I think that's the situation. That's the thing we need to really work on and helping the learner identify areas that are appropriate to stop and and also helping them understand the importance of communication because if I'm coming down the road as an emergency responder and somebody just moves into the left but keeps moving and I could do with them stopping, I don't know if they've seen me because they might just be eyes forward, they slow down a little bit, but they're not showing me that they've stopped.
But
So if I'm on
the other hat that you wear is instructor training. And what are some of the challenges that you're seeing for PDIs that are looking to come into the industry?
firstly a lot of poor advice, really. So a lot of people are advised to pass part one, usually by way of using an app to practice questions, um, which in itself is a problem because all you're learning is answers to questions, of course. You know, there's no substitute for reading some publications and learning your subject knowledge. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, and that's just one small element of it. I think the driving side of things is a huge problem, to be honest with you. Because most people, with a bit of guidance from YouTube, can pass part two. No problem. Check your mirrors more often, be more aware of what's going on around you. Fine, you can pass part two. A lot of people are learning test routes by watching videos on YouTube, etc. Instead of learning how to drive the car and master the skill of controlling a vehicle and being really aware of how they're doing that. If they did that, it would make the instructional training far easier for them.